Welcome back to beyoungministry.blogspot.com, also to another podcast out of the book of Galatians. Today we're in chapter 3, and we're considering verse 2, which reads, I would like to learn just one thing from you. Did you receive the Spirit by the works of the law or by believing what you heard? Again, that's Galatians 3 and verse 2. In context, the Apostle Paul is identifying three things that causes us to backslide. And today we're considering the second of these three. Whereas the first reason was we backslide because we lose sight of the cross of Jesus. Today, in verse 2, we will see that we backslide because we forsake a life of faith. Paul writes, Did you receive the Spirit by the works of the law or by believing what you heard? Faith has always been the basis upon which one is made right in the eyes of God. In fact, Romans 4:3 reads, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. As righteousness is in the eyes of God. And then Hebrews 11:6, the only thing that can humanly please God is faith. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Again, that's Hebrews 11:6. Faith is the only human thing that pleases God. Yet faith is the primary responsibility of God in the life of the believer. Let me say that again. Faith is the primary responsibility of God in the life of the believer. And you thought it was always your responsibility. The key for the believer is receiving. Perhaps the hardest thing we can do. The Greek word for faith is pistis, pistis in the Greek, which means to persuade. You see, our trust in God is not based on our efforts to do good or to be strong or to be better or to hold on to God. No, our faith in God is based on His persuasion. God persuades us through revealing Himself to us and showing His goodness to us. So faith is a gift. And it is not the product of those who are stronger or better in any way. No, it's a product of a gracious God who holds out, by the way, this revelation to all mankind. I don't understand it all. I don't understand why I came to faith in Jesus. I just knew I needed Him. And as a result of His persuasion, I believed. And I guess we'll understand all of that when we get to heaven. But now I don't truly understand it all. But at the end of the day, the issue for us is the object of our faith. The Lord Jesus said, no one gets to the Father but through me. Believing in Jesus Christ and His finished work on the cross, and the fact that He was buried and He rose from the dead, results in what life is really about. Real life, the life Jesus died to give us, produces everything we long for in this life. And the more we respond to Him, the more He persuades us to believe more or bigger. He is big. In fact, our understanding of Him is way too small, primarily due to our lack of responding to His persuasions or our lack of faith. I'm told the African impala can jump up to 11 feet and out 30 feet. And if we were to go to our local zoo to observe the impala, we would notice that the walls containing the impala is only about 4 feet tall. I know, you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. What keeps them in there? Why do they stay in the enclosure? The answer, the African impala, only jumps to spots which he can see with his eyes. And I think this is an apt illustration of why we do not step out in faith, why we don't take small steps of faith or even leaps of faith. We have lost sight of where to jump. God is holy, which means he acts consistently with his character. He's lacking nothing, so he's consistent. He does for us what we cannot do for ourselves. In fact, it's everything, not just our justification, but our sanctification. It is impossible to please God without faith in his Son, because his Son has measured up for us who have placed our faith in him. Years ago, I coached varsity baseball at a local high school. One day after a big region victory, my 4-year-old son climbed up the bleachers behind me. I was not aware of him being up on the top rung of the bleachers, about 5 feet off the ground. When I noticed him, he said, "Daddy, catch me." I walked over to him about a foot away, stood from him about a foot away, and told him to jump. And he said, "No, Daddy, back up." I tell you this story to illustrate this point. To the degree that we know how good and how big God is, we will want to show off his ability to catch us. Now, if my son was illustrating his ability to jump, well, that's another story. But for the sake of our subject today, I accentuate my son's daddy's ability to catch him. If I, his earthly daddy, delights in catching my trusting little boy, how much more does God want to display his ability to do the same for his trusting child? Finally, I am glad that God does not quantify the amount of our faith. He never says, you got to have this amount of faith. In fact, he tells us in Romans 4, we got to have the kind of faith that Abraham had, which was given to him, if you read that passage closely. But God never quantifies the amount of our faith, especially the faith that makes us acceptable to him. No, what does he do? He accentuates the object of our faith by saying, "Come to me." My friend, I trust these podcasts, these blogs have been helpful to you. If I can be of any assistance to you, you can shoot me an email at beyoungministry@gmail.com. Hey, have a great day.